Gateshead is a town in Tyne and Wear, England, and the main settlement in the Metropolitan Borough of Gateshead, part of County Durham until the creation of Tyne and Wear in 1974. The town lies on the southern bank of the River Tyne opposite Newcastle upon Tyne. Gateshead and Newcastle are joined by 7 bridges across the Tyne, including the Gateshead Millennium Bridge. The town is known for its architecture, including the Sage Gateshead, the Angel of the North, and the Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art. Residents of Gateshead, like the rest of Tyneside, are referred to as Geordies. Gateshead's population in 2011 was 120,046. Etymology: Gateshead is first mentioned in Latin translation in Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People as ad caput capra, at the goat's head. This interpretation is consistent with the later English attestations of the name, among them Gateshead, literally goat's head, but in the context of a place name meaning headland, a hill frequented by goats. Although other derivations have been mooted, it is this that is given by the standard authorities. History: there has been a settlement on the Gateshead side of the River Tyne, around the old river crossing where the swing bridge now stands, since Roman times. The first recorded mention of Gateshead is in the writings of the Venerable Bede, who referred to an abbot of Gateshead called Utter in 623. In 1068, William the Conqueror defeated the forces of Edgar the Eathing, and Malcolm, King of Scotland, on Gateshead fell. During medieval times, Gateshead was under the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Durham. At this time the area was largely forest with some agricultural land. The forest was the subject of Gateshead's first charter, granted in the 12th century by Hugh du Puiset, Bishop of Durham. An alternative spelling may be Gateshead, as seen in a legal record, dated 1430. The earliest recorded coal mining in the Gateshead area is dated to 1344. As trade on the Tyne prospered, there were several attempts by the burghers of Newcastle to annex Gateshead. In 1576, a small group of Newcastle merchants acquired the ground lease of the manors of Gateshead and Wickham. In the 100 years from 1574, coal shipments from Newcastle increased 11-fold, while the population of Gateshead doubled to approximately 5,500. However, the lease and the abundant coal supplies ended in 1680. The pits were shallow as problems of ventilation and flooding defeated attempts to mine coal from the deeper seams. William Hawkes, originally a blacksmith, started business in Gateshead in 1747, working with the iron brought to the Tyne as ballast by the Tyne colliers. Hawkes & Co. eventually became one of the biggest iron businesses in the north, producing anchors, chains and so on to meet the growing demand. There was keen contemporary rivalry between Hawkes Blacks and Crowley's crew. The famous Hawkes men, including Ned White, went on to be celebrated in Geordie song and story. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, the population of Gateshead expanded rapidly. Between 1801 and 1901, the increase was over 100,000. This expansion resulted in the spread southwards of the town. In 1854, a catastrophic explosion on the quayside destroyed most of Gateshead's medieval heritage, and caused widespread damage on the Newcastle side of the river. Robert Sterling Newell took out a patent on the manufacture of wire ropes in 1840, and in partnership with Messrs. Liddell and Gordon, set up his headquarters at Gateshead. A worldwide industry of wire drawing resulted. The submarine telegraph cable received its definitive form through Newell's initiative, involving the use of gutta-percha surrounded by strong wires. The first successful Dover-Calais cable on the 25th of September 1851 was made in Newell's works. In 1853, he invented the brake drum and cone for laying cable in deep seas. Half of the first Atlantic cable was manufactured in Gateshead. Newell was interested in astronomy, and his giant 25-inch telescope was set up in the garden at Ferndean, his Gateshead residence, in 1871. In 1831 a locomotive works was established by the Newcastle and Darlington Railway, later part of the York, Newcastle and Berwick Railway. In 1854 the works moved to the Greensfield site and became the manufacturing headquarters of Northeastern Railway. In 1909, locomotive construction was moved to Darlington and the rest of the works were closed in 1932. Sir Joseph Swan lived at Underhill's, Kells Lane from 1869 to 83, where his experiments led to the invention of the electric light bulb. The house was the first in the world to be wired for domestic electric light. In 1835, Gateshead was established as a municipal borough within the historic County Durham. By 1889 it had been made a county borough, but in the same year one of the largest employers, Hawkes, Crawshay and Company, closed down, and unemployment has since been a burden. After the Second World War there were repeated newspaper reports of the unemployed sending deputations to the council to provide work. The Depression years of the 1920s and 30s created even more joblessness, and the Teme Valley trading estate was built in the mid-1930s to alleviate the situation. In 1974, following the Local Government Act 1972, the county borough of Gateshead was merged with the urban districts of Felling, Wickham, Blaydon and Wrighton and part of the rural district of Chester Street to create the much larger Metropolitan Borough of Gateshead. In the past decade, Gateshead Council has begun developing plans to regenerate the town, with the long-term aim of making Gateshead a city. The most extensive transformation thus far has occurred in the quayside, with almost all the structures that being constructed are refurbished in this time. The town centre has also been redeveloped, with the £150 million Trinity Square development opening in May 2013. The centre incorporates student accommodation, a cinema, health centre and stores. It was nominated for the Carbuncle Cup in September 2014. The cup was however awarded to another development which involved Tesco, Woolwich Central. Geography. The town of Gateshead is situated in the northeast of England in the ceremonial county of Tyne and Wear, and within the historic boundaries of County Durham. It is located on the southern bank of the River Tyne at a latitude of 54.57 degrees north and a longitude of 1.35 degrees west. Gateshead experiences a temperate climate which is considerably warmer than some other locations at similar latitudes as a result of the warming influence of the Gulf Stream. It is located in the rain shadow of the North Pennines and is therefore in one of the driest regions of the United Kingdom. One of the most distinguishing features of Gateshead is its topography. The land rises 230 feet from Gateshead Quays to the town centre and continues rising to a height of 525 feet at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Sheriff Hill. This is in contrast to the flat and low-lying Teme Valley located on the western edges of town. The high elevations allow for impressive views over the Tyne Valley into Newcastle and across Tyneside to Sunderland and the North Sea from lookouts in Windmill Hills and Windy Nook respectively. The Office for National Statistics defines the town as an urban subdivision which largely shares the same boundaries as the historic pre-1974 County Borough of Gateshead. However, the administrative subdivisions of the larger metropolitan borough of Gateshead do not correspond to these borders, meaning the town is almost entirely indistinguishable from surrounding areas in regards to local governance. Unofficially speaking, the town of Gateshead typically refers to the urban area directly to the south of Newcastle city centre, as well as various surrounding suburbs. Felling, Heworth, Pelaw and Bilkey, in a separate urban subdivision and not part of the historical county borough, are sometimes considered to be within the town of Gateshead due to their closeness to the town centre and because they are in the same contiguous urban area. However, in 2011, the boundaries changed, resulting in the localities listed above being part of the town. Given the proximity of Gateshead to Newcastle, just south of the River Tyne from the city centre, it is sometimes referred to as being a part of Newcastle. Gateshead Council and Newcastle City Council teamed up in 2000 to create a unified marketing brand name, Newcastle Gateshead, to better promote the Tyneside conurbation. When outside the northeast of England, a resident of Gateshead would most likely say they are from Newcastle, as it is largest and most recognised city in the region. Within the northeast, however, they would usually state that they live in Gateshead, or more specifically give the neighbourhood within the town, such as Deckham at Dunstan. For example, climate in this area has small differences between highs and lows, and there is adequate rainfall year-round to meet the criterion for oceanic climate, at least 30 mm per month. The Köppen climate classification subtype for this climate is CFB. Districts. The town of Gateshead consists of the following districts. Some of them were once separate settlements that were absorbed by encroaching urban sprawl, while others consist entirely of retail, industrial and housing estates. Many of these areas overlap each other and the boundaries are by no means official or fixed. Gateshead is a town in the Tyneside urban area. Demography. Here is a table comparing Gateshead with the wider metropolitan borough. The town's population in 2011 was 120,046 compared with 78,403 in 2001. This because of not only a slight population increase but also boundary and methodology changes since 2001. Felling used to be a separate urban subdivision and had a population of around 35,000, but now it is considered part of Gateshead town. The population of the 2011 census boundaries in 2001 was 113,220, proving that there was some sort of population increase. In 2011, 8.0% of the population of Gateshead town were from an ethnic minority group, compared with only 6.0% for the surrounding borough. Despite the borough's low ethnic minority population, it has slightly more ethnic minorities than other boroughs in Tyne and Wear. The Tyneside metropolitan area around Gateshead has a population of 829,300. The Newcastle Gateshead urban core area has population of 480,400. The Metropolitan Borough of Gateshead had a population of 200,214 in 2011, which means the town takes up around 60% of the borough's population. The only other major areas in the borough are Wickham, Birtley, Blaydon-on-Tyne and Ryton. Economy. Gateshead is the home of the Metro Centre, a large shopping centre, the Team Valley Trading Estate, initially the largest and still one of the larger purpose-built commercial estates in the United Kingdom, as in Gateshead. Architecture. J.B. Priestley, writing of Gateshead in his travelogue English Journey, said that no true civilization could have produced such a town, adding that it appeared to have been designed by an enemy of the human race. This dismal impression, typical of the author's view of industrial towns, has proved influential in defining the popular image of Gateshead. Much, however, has changed since his time. William Wales, the celebrated stained glass maker, lived at South Dean from 1853 to 60. In 1860, he designed Saltwell Towers as a fairy tale palace for himself. It is an imposing Victorian mansion in its own park with a romantic skyline of turrets and battlements. It was originally furnished sumptuously by Gerard Robinson. Wales sold it to the corporation in 1876 for use as a public park, provided he could use the house for the rest of his life. For many years the structure was essentially an empty shell, but following a restoration program it was reopened to the public in 2004. The brutalist Trinity Centre car park, which was designed by Owen Luder, dominated the town centre for many years until its demolition in 2010. A product of attempts to regenerate the area in the 1960s, the car park gained an iconic status due to its appearance in the 1971 film Get Carter, starring Michael Caine. An unsuccessful campaign to have the structure listed was backed by Sylvester Stallone, who played the main role in the 2000 remake of the film. The car park was scheduled for demolition in 2009, but this was delayed as a result of a disagreement between Tesco and Gateshead Council. The council had not been given firm assurances that Tesco would build the previously envisioned town centre development, which was to include a Tesco megastore as well as shops, restaurants, cafes, bars, offices and student accommodation. The council effectively used the car park as a bargaining tool to ensure that the company adhered to the original proposals and blocked its demolition until they submitted a suitable planning application. Demolition finally took place in July-August 2010. The Derwent Tower, another well-known example of brutalist architecture, was also designed by Owen Luder and stands in the neighbourhood of Dunstan. Like the Trinity car park, it also failed in its bid to become a listed building and was demolished in 2012. Also located in this area of the Grey, two listed Dunstan staiths which were built in 1890. Following the award of a Heritage Lottery Fund grant of almost £420,000, restoration of the structure is expected to begin in April 2014. The council has recently sponsored the development of the Gateshead Quays Cultural Quarter. The development includes the Gateshead Millennium Bridge, erected in 2001, which won the James Stirling Prize for Architecture in 2002. The Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art has been established in a converted flour mill. The Sage Gateshead, a Norman Foster-designed venue for music and the performing arts, opened on the 17th of December 2004. Gateshead also hosted the Gateshead Garden Festival in 1990, rejuvenating 200 acres of derelict land. The Angel of the North, a famous sculpture in nearby Lamesley, is visible from the A1 to the south of Gateshead, as well as from the East Coast Main Line. Other public art include works by Richard Deacon, Colin Rose, Sally Matthews, Andy Goldsworthy, Gordon Young and Michael Winston. The Gateshead Millennium Bridge won the prestigious Stirling Prize for Architecture in 2002. Sport. Gateshead International Stadium regularly holds international athletics meetings over the summer months. It is also host to rugby league fixtures, and the home ground of Gateshead Football Club. Gateshead Thunder Rugby League Football Club played at Gateshead International Stadium until its purchase by Newcastle Rugby Limited and the subsequent rebranding as Newcastle Thunder. Both clubs have had the problems. Gateshead FC were controversially elected out of the Football League to make way for Peterborough United in the 1960s, whilst Gateshead Thunder lost the place in Super League as a result of a takeover by Hull. Both Gateshead clubs continue to ply the trade at lower levels in the respective sports, thanks mainly to the efforts of the supporters. The Gateshead Senators American football team also used the International Stadium. As well as this, it was used in the 2006 Northern Conference Champions in the British American Football League. Gateshead Miners are Gateshead's first and only Aussie Rules football team and compete in the Aussie Rules UK National League. Gateshead Leisure Centre is home to the Gateshead Phoenix basketball team. The team currently plays in EBL League Division 4. Home games are usually on a Sunday afternoon during the season, which runs from September to March. The team was formed in 2013 and ended their initial season well placed to progress after defeating local rivals Newcastle Eagles to earn promotion, chasing Kingston Panthers. In Low Fell there is a cricket club and a rugby club adjacent to each other on Eastwood Gardens. These are Gateshead Fell Cricket Club and Gateshead Rugby Club. Gateshead Rugby Club was formed in 1998 following the merger of Gateshead Fell Rugby Club and North Durham Rugby Club. Transport. Tyne and Wear metro stations at Gateshead Interchange and Gateshead Stadium provide direct light rail access to Newcastle Central Station, Newcastle International Airport, Sunderland, Tynemouth and South Shields. Gateshead Interchange is the busiest bus station in Tyne and Wear and was used by 3.9 million bus passengers in 2008. National rail services are provided by Northern Rail at Dunstan and Metro Centre stations. The East Coast Main Line, which runs from London to Edinburgh, cuts directly through the town on its way between Newcastle Central and Chester Street stations. There are presently no stations on this line within Gateshead, as Low Fell, Bensham and Gateshead West stations were closed in 1952, 1954 and 1965 respectively. Several major road links pass through Gateshead, including the A1 which links London to Edinburgh and the A184 which connects the town to Sunderland. Various bicycle trails traverse the town, most notably the recreational Keelman's Way, which is located on the south bank of the Tyne and takes riders along the entire Gateshead foreshore. Other prominent routes include the East Gateshead Cycleway, which connects to Felling, the West Gateshead Cycleway, which links the town centre to Dunstan and the Metro Centre, and routes along both the Old and New Durham roads, which take cyclists to Bertley, Reckington and the Angel of the North. Gateshead is served by the following rail transport stations, with some being operated by National Rail and some being Tyne and Wear metro stations. Gateshead Interchange, Gateshead Stadium Metro Station, Metro Centre Railway Station, Felling Metro Station, Hewith Railway Station, Hewith Metro Station, Dunstan Railway Station, Pelaw Metro Station. Religion. In the 2001 census, more than 10% of people residing in the wider metropolitan borough of Gateshead stated that they practiced no religion. Christianity has been present in the town since at least the 7th century, when Bede mentioned a monastery in Gateshead. A church in the town was burned down in 1080 with the Bishop of Durham inside. St Mary's Church was built near to the site of the building, and was the only church in the town until the 1820s. Undoubtedly the oldest building on the quayside, St Mary's has now reopened to the public as the town's first heritage centre. Many of the Anglican churches in the town date from the 19th century, when the population of the town grew dramatically and expanded into new areas. The town presently has a number of notable and large churches of many denominations. Judaism. The Bensham district is home to a community of hundreds of Jewish families and used to be known as Little Jerusalem. Within the community is the Gateshead Yeshiva, founded in 1929, and other Jewish educational institutions with international enrollments, such as Sunderland Yeshiva, Yeshiva Ketana, Bir HaTorah, Nizah HaTorah, Sunderland Kibbutz and Yeshiva Gedalah. Islam is practiced by a large community of people in Gateshead, and there are 2 mosques located in the Bensham area. Tourism. An article in the Daily Telegraph stated that a woman was denied entry into the UK at some time prior to 2007 for giving her reason for visiting as wanting to go to Gateshead. British visa officials ruled this as not credible. The research into Britain's confused immigration policies was taken up by Steve Boggan in The Guardian in a piece dated the 23rd of January 2007, which expressed incredulity at the ignorance of London officials, echoed by Newcastle Gateshead tourism heads. Twinning. Gateshead is twinned with the town of Saint-Étienne-du-Rouvray near Rouen in France, and the city of Komatsu in Japan. Famous residents.